today. Given the rich knowledge sharing in the webinars, we at Scope have presented the synopsis of the webinars in a knowledge Given the rich knowledge sharing in the webinars, on our website for we at Scope have presented the synopsis. We are happy to share that today also we have participants joining us from various platforms, one of course being live, along with live streaming on Scope YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Before we move further, I'll just take a few minutes to run you through the Q&A modalities. The participants joining live can put in the questions in the chat box, which is available on your screens. People joining us through social media platforms can put the question there, and we will ensure that the same are raised to the panelists at the end of the technical sessions. Please be rest assured that our team is tracking all the social media handles of Scope, and therefore, whatever questions you have, you can put there and we'll pick it up from there. Moving towards the webinar. As we advance in technology and rapidly adopt anywhere, anytime working, we as individuals and corporates are heavily exposed to hacks and security breaches. Today, data is more dear than own wealth, and hence, given the urgent need to address cyber risks and cybersecurity, Scope is conducting today's webinar with an eminent panel of experts from industry and consultancy. Please join me in welcoming Shri Atul Sopti, Director General Scope, Shri Partha Sarthi, Leader Cyber and Strategic Services, Deloitte, South Asia, along with Shri Vishal Jain, Partner from Deloitte, India. Please also join me in welcoming Shri Deepak Agarwalji, Executive Director, Information Services from Indian Oil Corporation Limited, to today's webinar. Sirs, thank you so much, and our heartfelt gratitude to all of you for joining us today. Before we move ahead, may I request DG Scope for his opening remarks and keynote address. Sir is a visionary leader, having a versatile professional experience of nearly 4 decades. Before leading Scope as Director General, Sir was CMD BHEL, a Maharatna public sector enterprise. Over to you, sir, for your remarks and keynote address.
Thank you, Smriti. Thank you very much. A very good afternoon to everyone, all the participants, all the panelists. It gives me great pleasure to welcome all of you to the 16th Scope webinar on cyber risk, cyber security in the era of work from home. Ladies and gentlemen, it has always been Scope's endeavor that even the most challenging time, our efforts towards enabling a conducive and cohesive environment for PSE is not compromised, which in fact encompasses policy advocacy, representation to the authorities and the policymakers on enablers and concerns of PSEs. Besides that, we engage ourselves in developing the capacities of PSEs by conducting knowledge sharing programs, conducting research and studies. And recently we have undertaken a series of studies and research work. And it's a matter of pride for me and my team to share with you that in a short span of 7 months, we have successfully hosted 15 webinars, which have not only been well received, but much appreciated in terms of content and quality. And as was mentioned in my earlier webinars also, we have published a knowledge repository of the 15th webinars containing the presentations and key highlights of the webinars, which is available on our website, Scope Online. And I'm sure that all of you would be benefited seeing that, going through that the document as well as the recordings of various webinars, and it will be very good ready reckoner for all of you. Today also, I've been told we got a very encouraging response. People are participating live as well as through various social media of Scope. Thank you very much for giving this response to our webinars. As our participant and associate would have observed that till date our webinars have focused on most recent and engaging concerns of PSEs, most relevant to the present times and changing dynamics of the business and the corporate worlds. Continuing the same as Samriddhi mentioned, that we thought that it's pertinent to organize discussions on the threats that corporate world is facing due to the unique situation of remote working. We are at a very critical juncture. Very rarely this kind of situation come, very difficult situation, but I would like to call it a unique opportunistic time. Have an opportunity, rather exposed to an opportunity underlying this challenge. So that opportunity has to be seized. The challenge, of course, is that due to the health crisis, we are unable to work in the normal environment, and there are a lot of issues. People are allowed to work from home, and in fact, normal kind of working has been done away with the necessity of physical distances, as well as that's the reason that remote working has been introduced and work from home has been introduced. And I'm pleased to share with you that we have recently launched a study along with ILO. Besides many other studies, one study which has been launched with ILO, especially for the women employees, that what kind of issues they are facing, what kind of opportunity they are having for work from home. And of course, I'm sure today's webinar will also help in understanding that how the work from home can be made more effectively without compromising on the data security. We all are well aware about the concept of remote working and which has gained greater momentum in the last few months, and almost all organizations, all companies, they are embracing it, and most of them have already done it. And this has led to a complete shift in priorities of IT infrastructure, because everybody is trying to develop a remote working, robust infrastructure. This is evident from the statistics that the spending on WFH infrastructure is increasing by 27% in the current year, and it's constituting nearly, I am given the figure, 19% of total expenditure of the corporates. So this is a very serious investment. We are looking at the organization who are now readily and actively exploring end-to-end remote working solutions. At least 74% of the companies, they plans to continue with the remote working in the near future also. There are a lot of benefits which I am also seeing in my own organization of working from home, such as increased talent retention, productivity, improving the staff's work-life balance, but it has, as I mentioned earlier, that security risk and other challenges. While there has been always the threat for the cyber security, but the concept of work from home has brought it near to almost all the organizations. With the high risk of data leakage, phishing attacks, spyware, apps with weak encryptions, the risk is magnified for those organizations which are primarily dealing in the intellectual property and the personal data, like many design companies are there, IT companies are there, banks are there, and so on. It's not only the number of cyber attacks that they have increased, but also the complexity of attacks in the recent past, which has increased. I've been told that as per the international reports, the damage related to cybercrime is projected to hit $6 trillion annually by 2021. A staggering figure, which is scary in fact. And I feel that any laxity on cybersecurity can cost any organization not only its commercial, but also even the existence. Existence can be doubtful if we don't take care of these aspects. So given the national and actual cost involved in the cyber risk, companies have been investing heavily on the cyber security, but organizations need to resolve the cyber risks and threats by strengthening their cyber security before starting the implementation of work from home in full swing. Most of us understand the cybersecurity as prevention against hacking of the personal account, but in reality, it is much more than that. Cybersecurity has moved beyond the password protection to protection of internet connected systems such as hardware, software, to defend the computers, servers, mobile devices, electronic systems, networks, and data from the malicious attacks. Another important thing here is cyber attacks or security is not limited to a particular region, but it is prevalent everywhere across the globe. As per one of the study of the Forbes, cybersecurity spending shall reach 123 billion US dollar in 2020. And the key areas are going to be security services, infrastructure protection, network security, equipment, identity, access management, and consumer security software, to name few. So it's not only the commercial organizations, even the policy makers and international bodies, they also recognize the digital transition and threats it imposes. OECD, you know, the international organization, a very important organization, where in fact we also have the privilege at scope to represent Indian PSCs in their many forums. Recently, they had a meeting in October 2020, where they adopted a resolution wherein it was recognized that digital transition, which has been accelerated due to pandemic, it's a welcome step. But all of us need to address the challenges, including data protection, privacy, digital security, disinformation, and digital divides. A lot of work is being done by them also in this particular area. So there is a need to not only identify the cyber risks, but also to strategize also and to mitigate the same by developing a cyber resilient enterprise. So as a starting point, the organization may develop formalized security policy and procedures and apply specifically to the remote workers. That constitute the main part of the protecting an organization data. While if we talk about the protection policy, normally we think that we should avoid using the Wi-Fi and public Wi-Fi and using the antivirus and anti-malware software and using the firewalls and using the VPNs, etc. But we need to adopt much more advanced methods, and there the confusion starts because many of us are not even aware of those things. So I'm glad today we have a panel of not only experts, but I would call them gurus who are here with us, who would be sharing candidly on the subjects and guiding us through a maze of cybersecurity systems. We have amongst us Shri Parsarthi, a very, very experienced leader with Deloitte India, leading the practice on cyber and strategic devices, strategic services, South Asia. Along with him, we have Mr. Vishal Jain, who has been leading the Deloitte practice on risk advisory with focus on digital and
Apologies. I think there is some issue on DG Scope's end. As we say, every positive has a negative.
Nice.
Yeah, DG sir is back. Sir, the video got hung, so please continue.
Okay. Anyway, I will just repeat again a few things that I'm glad to welcome the two experts, Shri Parsarthi ji and Shri Vishal Jain, who are well-known name in this particular area. And they are not only experts, but they are gurus who are here. And I am sure that under their guidance, the participants would be learning the cyber nuances of the cyber risk and also help us to understand how to combine the existing and the new technologies to protect one's systems against these threats. Welcome to both of you, Parsarthi ji, Vishal ji. I am also taking this opportunity to Shri Deepak Agarwal ji, Executive Director IOCL, who is with us to reflect on the industry perspective of cybersecurity, giving a practical angle to the subject. I'm certain the kind of expertise, the knowledge, experience he has in this area, we shall learn a lot from him. With such a rich faculty, I would request all the participants who have joined in a large number to kindly make best use of available opportunity to dispel their concerns and doubts regarding the subject so that they can work more effectively in mitigating the cyber threats in their respective organization. Wishing all the best in the webinar. I'm sorry that in between the video got hung. In fact, this is another problem which we face while work from home. Nevertheless, we have to, it's okay, it's part of the game. So I wish all the best to webinar. Please make best use of it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. As you said, every positive has a slight negative. So yes, technical glitches, but I'm sure everyone understands that. And with time, we will overcome that too. So moving ahead, now we would be starting with the technical sessions for the webinar. But before that, I would just like to correct myself. Earlier, I mentioned that the attendees can put their questions in the chat, but I'm sorry, it is the questions tab. The attendees have access to the questions tab on their devices. Kindly share the questions there. Moving ahead, I would now hand over the platform to Deloitte India for sharing their perspective and enlightening us on cyber risk and cybersecurity. But before I do that, I would like to briefly introduce the panelists from Deloitte. We have with us Shri Partha Sarthiji, who leads the Cyber and Strategic Services Deloitte South Asia. He has over 2.5 decades of experience in advising his clients in enterprise technologies, Industry 4.0 disruptors, cybersecurity, risk management, future of risk, learning solutions, along with n number of other areas of expertise. We are very, very honored to have you, sir, with us. We are also joined from Deloitte by Shri Vishal Jain, who is a partner, and he leads the risk advisory practice of the firm with specific focus on digital. He has rich experience in cybersecurity and has been instrumental in conceptualizing and developing telecom security, privacy, business resilience, and vendor risk management. With such a rich faculty, I hand over the platform to Deloitte, both Shri and Vishal. Please take over from here, and we will be sharing your presentation shortly. Hand over the platform to you.
So you're on mute.
Thank you so much. And yeah, if we can put the slide on full screen, and yeah, leave it there. Good afternoon, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to each one of you, depending on where you are viewing this virtual presentation from. And as we go live worldwide, I think it's important for us to acknowledge that we will have an audience which is coming worldwide onto this. And we expect to essentially have a good coverage here in terms of remote working and some of the cyber considerations. And as I look at this particular journey in 2020, and as we have seen COVID, I think while COVID has essentially significantly impacted our supply chains worldwide and disrupted our way of life, I think it's also provided all of us significant number of opportunities. And the opportunities come in terms of digital and virtualization, which may have taken almost like 10 years for adoption by enterprises. Now today, when you really look at digital and virtualization, that has become a reality, not only in enterprises, but I think right from home, from everybody who's today schools, enterprises, and every walk of life essentially is embracing digital. And so when I really compare some of the things, like if I say demonetization accelerated the digital payments and financial sector, I think where I look at COVID, it essentially accelerated the overall digital and virtualization. So always when you really look at things, one needs to look at it in terms of every cloud as a silver lining, and which I think is very important for us to look at. But at the same time, as we basically embark into this particular journey, which essentially is a rapid acceleration of adoption of technologies, it also poses a significant amount of risk to the enterprise or to the end citizen who basically is accessing the information, whether you're an employee, whether you're a citizen, whether you're a school student, whether you're a school teacher, or wherever you are. Essentially, as you adopt this particular technology, I think there has been a rapid learning for a lot of people in terms of understanding it, because today people talk of different technologies which they would have never even spoken before. And now, as you look at it, enterprises are galloping to basically provide these particular remote working solutions. Previously, if you really look at it, every enterprise was creating what you call as these large campuses and large offices where they basically house the people. Now essentially everybody worldwide is pushing people into not just work from home, it is, I would say, work from anywhere. And that is the new reality. And let's say what are the risks that are really coming up in this particular reality. Let's move to the next slide. So while the good people do the good things in terms of adopting and rapidly helping and making sure that we can continue our way of life, even if it may be in the new normal, which essentially is here to stay, because there are a lot of people who believe that essentially we will most likely go back to the old normal. But I believe that time always shifts forward and it's never going to go back. So the new normal in whatever shape and form will continue, and we as human beings need to continue to basically adapt in this particular journey, and so do enterprise and the workforce which essentially works here. So if you really look at the number of risks that are being posed in this particular environment, just take a look. There's been a drastic increase in the number of data breaches post-COVID. And look at the aspect, like you have a Twitter hack, you have Marriott data breach, you have challenges with Zoom, Yuna Academy, Haldiram, and it goes on, the list goes on. And we are seeing, being cybersecurity practitioners, where we basically support organizations worldwide, we are seeing breaches come through almost every day. And the number of events and incidents that are happening are essentially significant, exponentially increasing, and which gives us a thought in terms of why is this particular aspect happening. It is bound to happen because the world wants to go digital, and there is a particular side of society which essentially wants to hack or essentially exploit this particular vulnerability, and which is essentially where you really look at the good and the bad. And that's been right from, if I look at right from mythology, you have good and you have bad. And so similarly, as organizations and enterprises continue to basically provide these particular ability for you to continue protecting the enterprise. Over to you, Vishal.
Thanks, Sri. If I can ask for the next slide. So I think Sri just set up the context in terms of how things are changing, and we have seen the entire cybersecurity threats have increased, the entire way of operating from a work environment, even the workplace environment is extended beyond office space to home. So it's like office coming to home, and we have been working for last 8-10 months now. And well, initially there was some glitch and hiccup, and we were saying how to move forward. But then going forward, I think companies are now really actually evaluating in terms of maybe certain percentage of the workforce or certain functions or process can actually continue to work from home. Well, that is has its own pros, and that's why they want to do it. But then from a security aspect, it becomes really critical. So when we talk about the entire focus area in terms of when you are moving to a new normal, security is definitely the most important aspect. But the critical aspect here is it is related to many of the indirectly other aspect of which is equally critical when you talk about security. So what we are talking about here is a 6+1 type of model, where we are saying that 6 areas you can see: the security, infrastructure, technology, operations, fraud, and taxation. Taxation is not really a security aspect, but is a critical, important aspect when it comes from the new normal perspective. And if that has to be taken care, because it is a regulatory requirement and it's important from a work aspect. So this is the sixth area, and the plus one is the entire building the resiliency in the entire new infrastructure and new normal. So when we talk about security, the whole idea is that you should relook, reassess, or design and implement the controls and solution to protect the enterprise. So here the environment has changed. People are working from home and from their own laptop or the enterprise laptop. Basically, the entire endpoint is out of direct control or out of the office premises. So there are certain controls we have to relook, and maybe certain security solution which needs to be redeployed when it comes to the endpoint aspect. From a infrastructure point of view, whether your current network is geared up to take care of this new normal enablement. And from a security aspect, if I say, we always, or most of the companies, they have to have one internet gateway and people used to log in. But if that VPN or that connectivity is compromised, the entire internal network is exposed. So from an infrastructure point of view, maybe you have to redesign your network to see that it is well segmented and to the people who are required for that particular network segment and application hosted in that segment. Because then what you're saying that if my entry point has been compromised, there are first of all segmentation. So I have my risk exposure is limited to the segment from where that particular endpoint is getting access to. So your infrastructure from a security point of view has to relook the entire segmentation aspect. If I move to the technology domain, again talking in terms of security, though there are other areas of technology as well, but technology aspect here to relook of how the security analytics can be deployed in your security monitoring aspect. How your threat feeds can be analyzed on a real time with the new solutions and RPAs and bots coming into picture that can be taken care of or implemented from your security monitoring perspective. Similarly, when you go to the operations, your entire IT security policies or IT policies procedure, for example, your help desk management, your account lockout, employees not able to log into an account or not able to troubleshoot a particular application or a desktop. There were certain ways of earlier procedure because we were sitting in the office. Now that we were working from home, their entire policy procedure needs to be redesigned, and that's where the entire operation has to be taken care of. And here I'm only talking on the security aspect. Well, there are implications on the business operation, implications on the finance and other aspects. Similarly, on the infrastructure, one more aspect is critical. If you believe that certain application needs to be taken or from a reliability or a scalability point of view, you can actually evaluate to move them to a virtualized cloud environment, or it could be a private cloud, or it could be a cloud service provider. Because that way, from the security point of view, you can have a faster deployment of security, and then there is a focused attention from the cloud service provider when it comes to security. So those are something on the infrastructure side. Sorry, to go back to infrastructure. Taking to the fifth domain, which is the fraud domain. Now that is very important, and we have seen an increase in the phishing attack. People are taking advantage that people are not contactable. So let's send some impersonated mail of the senior leadership, a CFO sending a mail to a CEO saying that please transfer so much amount of money. And the person receiving it believes that it is coming from CEO, but actually it's a phishing email, or it was not actually coming from CEO. And that is how they're taking advantage, and frauds are happening. Similarly, malicious website. We have seen on even the customer side, there have been certain breaches where customer care numbers are fraudulently published on the public domain, and when people call to assuming that it belongs to a genuine customer, then the enterprise, they realize that no, it is a fraudulent, and they actually lost money. And when they went into the investigation of it, called the customer care with a genuine one through email and other means, then they realized that the customer care number itself was wrong. So a lot of fraud which is happening due to the security weakness and the way we are operated, because we were never geared up to work from home. And that's why a lot of these behavioral aspects where we have never thought of some of those aspects from a security mindset point of view are being exploited by these fraudulent users or malicious people. Taxation, I will not go into detail. If I talk about this 6 and plus 1, which is, if you see on the right hand side, the embed resiliency across work, workforce, and workplace. Well, all these are more on the preventive and the detective side. But God forbid if something still goes wrong. So it's like she mentioned that there was a power outage in Maharashtra. Now there was some public news item in terms of what went wrong on the public power outage part. But suddenly that power outage in the metro started impacting the home Wi-Fi, started actually impacting the telecom network. So the entire remote connectivity. So earlier, if you had 10% of your staff who were working from home, and if they are not able to connect to your network or to your office, was okay. But now, if your 90% of your staff is working from home, and if the network goes down, you can imagine the disruption in the operation which happens. And that's why, with this new normal or a work from home, you have to relook your resiliency plan, and you have to inbuild the redundancy and the resiliency in your infrastructure, both from an availability of technology point of view and also getting prepared from security attacks, and make sure that these malware attacks, ransomware attacks, or any virus attacks, or any breach, or any data theft are not disrupting your business operation. And that's where resiliency aspect has to be relooked. And that is something which is very critical. And that's why we are saying it is no more a security, no more a BCP standalone, but it's a security and resilience needs to be integrated at the design stage so as to make sure that you are much more secure and much more risk-free. Can we move to the next slide? So just a quick approach on this. Here, when you are doing an assessment of your network, I think 4 important components which are critical to be seen. Who want to attack your business? So who are the actors? So who are your people who are looking for attacks? What are your threats? What is the crown jewels, which is mean the target on your side, which the attacker might be looking for? So identify your crown jewels. What is the technique they are going to attack? So you think, what are your open path, your entire network design, your unpatched systems, your endpoint not secure enough, and other stuff. So those techniques is something critical to be identified. And once you have done that, the 4th aspect is from the surface point of view, which means what are my points of entry, which are my systems or servers which are exposed on the public domain or having a public IP or actually required in a DMZ environment, those type of stuff. And that's where your actor, crown jewels, technique, and surface, if you identify, take this as a 4 approach, it helps in you getting in a structured way of securing or assessing the security aspect. Once you assess the risk and threat on your system, you can actually then divide it into 3 broad stages. First is your strategy and governance. You design your architecture, policy, privacy aspect, third party, the entire policy, procedure, governance framework around that. And then you talk about the going a level below on the technical security aspect, which is your asset management. How are you managing assets which are remotely, or your servers, or on your third party cloud service provider, or even your business partners who are accessing or providing some servers and services to you. Data protection, what is the data which is getting accessed out from the employees or third party? Now here is an approach from a data point of view. I think what you have to do is take an inside out approach, which means you follow the data where it is being traveled, you build the security control in the entire data life cycle, whether it's the data right from the collection to transmission to data at rest, storage, archive, and even when you're disposing. So data, the control needs to move around the data, because we are no more talking about a very defined parameter. We are actually in a borderless world. And then comes the infrastructure, which is the entire environment, which is your network infrastructure, the availability and the security of that. If you see, most of the security attacks are either targeting the data leakage, or they are targeting the denial of service, which means the services, let's disrupt the services so it is not available to the legitimate user. And that is the real mindset of the attackers which they are targeting. And then finally, access management, which means that how the authorization or authentication taking place. Once you have taken the strategy, governance, the policy procedure part, and the technical aspect on the security, sustenance becomes important. And here you're doing a periodic assessment, your security monitoring, and your the entire threat advisory, threat monitoring, zero-day attack, and all those stuff becomes very critical here. So left-hand side, the 4 components is an assessment, and the right-hand side is the mitigation aspects. We just thought to share this structured approach where there are various ways of taking care of this aspect. But if you follow this, this is something which will give you a start and start in a structured manner to take care of the security aspect. Can we go to the next slide? So I'll just quickly run through and not go into each and every blocks here, considering the time we have, but you're free to look at it, what is on the screen. But 2-3 things which are important. First is number one, reevaluate your cyber priorities and governance. Identify what level of data or application access you require to which team, because everybody is outside. Restrict the access, put a resistance in terms of the level of data which is shared on the screen. You can get into the virtual workflow, virtual desktop, those type of things as well. So that is relook your cyber priorities. Another important aspect is your number 5, which is implement monitoring solution. The entire focus of security monitoring needs to now move at the entry point where all the people are coming from the outside world or from the public domain. So your security monitoring, your correlation rules in your SIM engines have to be relooked. Third aspect, which is again critical here, is the entire number 6, which is your upgrade your fraud detection capability. Maybe you have to link your security analytics with your business control failure analytics and see is there any correlation to identify possible or suspicious transaction or possible fraud. And another 9th number is again, which I want to reiterate, is the refresh your organization crisis resilience. It is no more should be restricted to a man-made or a natural flood, fire, earthquake type of a disaster, but cyber is key. And I think you have to relook what all cyber incidents and how to take care of that. How much is your network resilient to take care of those? So I mean, with this, I just thought to stop here, though there are other areas, but considering the time, I would give it back to Samriddhi from our side.
Thank you so much, Shri and Vishal. I am sure it's been a very, very enlightening presentation, and a lot of questions answered, I hope, for people who have joined. Now, after this, may I have the pleasure of inviting Shri Deepak Agarwalji from Indian Oil Corporation for giving us the industry perspective. Though Shri Agarwal is is Executive Director, IOCL, he is known as an architect of highly available enterprise class computing infrastructure. He has piloted the implementation of world's largest SAP HANA implementation in his organization and has been steering an ambitious project, EPIC, aimed to deliver next generation customer experience through digital transformation. Who better would be there to help us and guide us through how practically we can implement cybersecurity, and is it really that complicated? So over to you, sir, Deepak Agarwal, sir, and may I request that his presentation may be shared?
Good afternoon, everybody. If you look at the heading of my presentation, purposefully, I have put a word hybrid workspace model. I have not used a word work from home. Why? Because you people must have seen, you must have realized that in the last 8 months, and especially after March and up to August, how you have been getting water at your home, you have been getting electricity at your home, you have been getting milk supply at your home, you are getting LPG supply at your home, and your cars, vehicles are running, ambulances are running. What does it mean? It means that the public sectors in these areas, all these people, everybody was not working from home, right? All our locational people, the half of my population, half of my workforce, basically they were running the plants to meet this kind of exigencies which came into the country. Just imagine if the electricity would not have been supplied to your workplace, to your home, how you would have communicated the collaboration. The entire thing would have come to the halt. So that's why I have written a word hybrid workspace model. And when it becomes a hybrid workspace model, the challenges becomes more severe, more challenging. Why? Because you have to manage both platforms now. Work from home, the home, as well as your office also. So what happens is, because you have to work in both the environments, you have to open your applications in both the environments. So it becomes very, very trivial. And how do you take the challenge? That was a really very challenging for each and every IT professional, especially in public sectors. I'll say on to that. Now, before I go to the next slide, I'll just put some perspective again before you go to the next slide here. Now, the kind of COVID situation which came into the country, and if you talk of cybersecurity, it totally requires a mindset change. It's a mindset change, I will say. Why? Because, earlier, the IT professional, the companies, they were concentrating only on the on-premises security, right? I mean, we used to guard our systems which are on-premises. Hardly we bothered about the devices which are getting connected from home, right? So this is totally a mindset change now. How do I protect my not running Zoom or WebEx and those kind of things? That really got bombarded. So it's both, I mean, I'll say security as well as network. So these both are the affected areas as far as this particular new environment is concerned. Second thing which comes to my mind is whether if I really start putting on work from home cybersecurity, shall I really consider it as a greenfield project or shall I take it as a brownfield project? Because each and every company has really made a lot of investment already on the on-premises cybersecurity areas. Because I have my own circle in which like people from ONGC, Bharat Petroleum, BHEL, we keep talking to each other. I mean, people are, still continuing the procurements. They are putting a lot of new security operations dashboards, whatnot, they are doing it. The point here is, while dealing with work from home, really will my entire security perspective, my entire addressing of my security will change if I bring this work from home address? So it becomes a greenfield or a brownfield, or how much I want to address. This is the second subject. I leave it to all participants to think about it. The third, which is very, very important, which actually comes to my mind, I think the vaccination will be available in January, February, March, April, and by May, the situation is going to improve actually, right? The point here is, do we really want to reinvest money in cybersecurity on work from home after, though the work from home will not be so much prevalent after May or June. There are certain companies, some multinational companies, they have already taken a stand that we will, but I'm talking from the public sector or internal perspective, I'm talking about it. Will it really prevail? Or shall I really wait after 10 or 15 years, if another pandemic comes, then I build onto that? My point is, if I spend money to address my work from home kind of a security issues, right? Shall I really invest? How much I should invest into that? Because after May or June, I fear that this particular investment can go for a waste. Now, if you look at the security, addressing security challenges and all, it's a very simple actually equation. The security is directly proportional to money, time, and skills, right? How much money do you have, how much time you put in, and how much skill you are, the better the things is going to have. But there's a difference between the defender and an attacker actually. What attacker does, he addresses the fourth parameter. This is called motive actually, right? He has got a one special motive. What he really wants to, how he wants to impact an organization by doing an attack onto that. So these are the four things, if you have really money, you can build any security. There is no, because of today technology is available to you. It's just how much time you want to spend to build those guards, and are you really skilled or not? So this is the third thing I was talking about. Building skills within information technology department, as well as the workers or the workforce. It also is very, very, very essential onto that. Fourth point is basically today if you look at our security setup today in all the corporations, we have the perimeter hardware security on premises. Now, if you look at the solutions, what basically the service providers or they are giving you, they are giving the cloud services kind of a thing. So do you have really that mindset? Will you like to move from hardware kind of a solution which are on premises to the cloud-based on a subscription-based solution? You have to take call onto that. The next question comes is, I was reading some questions also. The next is, what kind of a risk actually you want to address from work from home? For example, I just tell you three things, right? The number one is, do you really want to allow the unmanaged devices at the home or not? If yes, the risks are very, very high. The number two is, some companies does it. They provide you the managed devices of their own to work from home. The risk basically gets reduced. And the third thing, what happens is, if you say, no, I don't, I mean, you do whatever you want to do, I mean, nothing is there, then the security, the customer is very happy, the workers are very happy, the workforce is very happy, but your risk increases. So what kind of a risk actually you want to address, this all you have to see onto that. Now, look at this slide, the pre-COVID, basically, look at the situation here. We were having 700 branches, 25,000 people who used to use our IT facilities, and all were the managed devices. And we were having an MPLS internet, as all companies have, and all my branches were connected through this MPLS of like Airtel or BSNL or Power Grid, and simultaneously, I mean, I have got a internet connectivity also. This was a very simple pre-COVID structure, and we were able to take care of our cybersecurity issues in this environment. Next slide, please. Now, look at this explosion which happens in the COVID. You know, what is the change? If you look at the right side, the 700 branches, actually, instead of 100 branches to address, the 25,000 offices got opened actually. Every house became an office. Every house became an office. And instead of having a 25,000 managed devices, we were to deal with 33,000 unmanaged devices in these 25,000 houses. So, I mean, that kind of an explosion, I mean, happened all of a sudden, and we were really not prepared for it. Or, I mean, and the next day people were asked to go from home, work from home. It was really a nightmare for us how, I mean, the companies really fought this kind of a situation. But whatever the IS departments, the information technology, along with the help of the management, they were able to, you know, I mean, fight with the situation. This is the next slide, actually. I mean, this comes to the next slide. Let's go to the next slide, please. So what were the challenges? Actually, infrastructure. All were unmanaged clients. Clients means what? The PC which you are using from your home, your son is also using, your children are also using, your wife is also using, somebody is playing game, you are doing a stock accounting also, you are accessing your bank account also. You never know, and they are most of the devices at home, they don't have an antivirus software onto that, right? The second thing was the VPN capability. Now, we were having, all companies mostly are having hardware devices of VPN which can take a certain numbers. Those are designed to take that kind of a load. And when the offices become 25,000 and devices became to 33,000, this VPN capability started becoming short. And the best thing here is the public sectors, all those guys, they were working, but the point is the service providers, they immediately took a decision to work from home. So there was a restriction on the supplies. We were not able to get the additional IT hardware because they say we are working from home, right? The bandwidth became a very limited. Why? Because the internet which was available to all of us, that was only limited to take care of certain kind of functionalities and application availability. Now 33,000 houses are getting access to my machines. So you can imagine what kind of an explosion would have come on our internet. No collaboration tool earlier people used to use, whether it is WebEx, Zoom, or whatsoever it is. I mean, people were able to do meetings, travel, and all those things. All of a sudden, this collaboration tool thing started. And what we were using initially was the pure internal apps. And the promise, I mean, the processes, one of the challenges, on-premise security also became our colleagues from Deloitte, they have already addressed onto that. The best part was, that the worst part was, there was no work from home procedure laid in our manuals. Nobody had how to tackle this situation from work from home. That was the really, I mean, you know, we have written a lot of ITSM manual, DR manuals, ISO 27,000 manuals, but work from home procedure was never mentioned into our manuals, and we were totally unaware of it, right? And if you look at the home IT, I told you multiple devices, unmanaged devices, multi-user, insecure network, all those things were happening from home actually. And the thing was, the people were really not aware how to the IT skills. For example, if they are using a router at home to connect to the internet, they don't know whether how to use a WAP or WAP2 kind of a security. I mean, right? And too much of fake information started coming from a lot of these things. If you are a COVID, we will give you this, that. People started believing on those things. The best part, which everybody knows, that the Zoom. Everybody was using Zoom, but the fake information, or you say that I will not use the word fake, I will say people started telling in the circles that Zoom has got a lot of security flaws. You know, all those kind of things started coming onto that. And the last point here is, which is very, very important, very, very important, the fear of leaking sensitive information. Because we managed to give access to the officers, to the workforce from home to access to our applications, to access to their files. So, and the sensitive information was available at their home PCs. And I think, I don't know really very much companies have deployed the DLP tools or not. So you talk, I mean, what to talk about work from home, even in office environment, we have not gone to that stage by deploying the DLP tools at all. So these were the challenges which, like Indian Oil, I think our industry, especially in public sector, similar kind of a challenges they must have also faced. Next slide, please. Now, how did we manage actually? Without taking any new technology, because now the technologies are available to you, right? So, but you have whatever is available to you at that time, because no vendor is coming to you, everybody's work from home, no delivery, US is totally shut down. If you want a device with more VPN connections, the vendor is telling, I can't supply you the VPN device, then what you will do actually then? So these are the all things we started, our IT people, they started doing it. The first objective was how to manage these unmanaged clients to a great extent. So we start building the strict VPN checks. For example, I mean, even I can tell you, I can have a bet with you today. The number of VPN connections which you are giving to your workforce, you still don't have an inventory which kind of a user is going to access what actually. Because if I am having a 33,000 employees at my place, it's very difficult to make a matrix. What kind of a user is going to address what kind of an application, so that I can build my VPN checks onto that. But somehow we started again revisiting our policies and procedures on-premise system, and we got success to a lot of extent. Multi-factor authentication, we made it a mandatory thing, and in certain cases we gave it time-bound admin access. Why? Because certain people wanted to access, I mean, they need an administrative password to do something on their machines. So we have to give them. But we just gave for 15 minutes, and our IS officer, immediately after 16 minutes, he will take out that connection. So that kind of a monitoring we started doing it. And VPN scalability, redundancy, yes. Increased licenses were not available, but what we did, because we have got 4 or 5 divisions within the corporations, so we distributed the load, you know. Like suppose if somebody is having 2,000 extra VPN connections, so we diverted the load of the another divisions to that particular division, so that we start sharing the load between us, rather than the division which has having 400, now his requirement is 2,000, from where I will get the licenses. And this is how. But definitely thanks to Airtel and BSNL and Power Grid and all these companies who immediately help us to give us a increased bandwidth. I think Airtel, definitely I will also say, these companies, even at our residencies also, these are the companies which are working. If your connection is down, you can imagine you just can't access anything. Your Wi-Fi devices will not work. So like other public sectors, other essential services, these bandwidth providers were also working. So our applications, especially in Indian Oil, we were not making it as an internet facing. But because a lot of people wanted, for example, your employees' health services, you want to claim something, medical claim karna hai. A lot of applications are there. Your performance management system is there. Your other business applications are there. Immediately within 2-3 days, by putting a lot of controls, we moved these applications which are available beyond my internet actually. So we reconfigured our WAF, right? And there were a lot of new applications which we have built. I think if I really take pride of that, we made one telemedicine app within Indian Oil Corporation, and then we aggregated about 400 to 500 doctors around Indian Oil Corporation who were the part of our refineries hospital, who were retired or who were coming on part-time basis to our different locations. So all these doctors came together and we started using this particular application. Proud to say that this telemedicine app today, when we had a look at the demonstration of these from the best hospitals in India, our app was much more better than that. And once your workforce is sitting at home, how do you take the attendance? How do you distribute the task? Because the companies like Google, Facebook, these digital companies, they are basically tuned to such kind of a work. We public sectors are not. So immediately within the 48 to 56 hours, we designed one application where I can give a task to my subordinate, and which will go and sit into his mobile application, and he will fill his daily routines, his daily attendance, his daily health status and all. So these kind of things, we use the cloud services for that, so that we can do all those things. And definitely employees collaboration, WebEx, MS Teams, Zoom. Another thing which we did here, I think I mean, again, we take very good proud of that. We designed our own. The moment the Zoom and other stories started coming, you know, I mean, there are a lot of issues, this and that. And once you have a people from office as well as home, and you are talking on WebEx, MS Zoom, it is becoming a cross. You are using your home Wi-Fi also and using my internet also. So bandwidth started getting choked. We immediately got designed our in-house VC tool based on Jitsi platform. So two young people, they came forward and we have named it Antrang. So this particular application we distributed immediately in each and every office. It works on premises. So the video requirement, the VC requirement, which was not required across outside the internet, we started using within the complex. For example, from room to room. Don't come to the room. On room to room, you can do a VC by using this software. So all those things requires a lot of bandwidth. That's why I was telling. Along with cybersecurity, network is also a very, very big issue which you need to address with this particular cybersecurity. Next slide, please. Processes, yes, everybody has, I mean, I have already explained you, but the third point, paper-based processes were there. We have a content management system. We started, I mean, it's a blessing in disguise. Earlier, the people were not using our paper-based processes. So now we started, using, hello, yeah.
Yeah, Deepak sir, we are kind of short on time. We have a lot of questions coming in. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So let's please skip this slide. This also, yes. Skip this slide, please. Yeah, this is the slide now. This is what now we are planning to that. I mean, we are going to work on these things. You can have 5 types of application: client server application, non-standard applications, web applications, infrastructure as a service. For example, our entire CRM system is on an infrastructure as a service and your software as a service. So how do these 5 environments, and if you look at the remote user, how you are going to support them? So this is the kind of a technology we have started working on to that. ZTNA, I mean, it all depends what kind of a risk you want to cover. CASB, cloud VPN, on-premises VPN. So basically, if you really zero down, so today technologies are available. We have started evaluating these technologies now. And maybe if we have a fear that work from home will continue, we will start deploying these technology after doing our proof of concept, and we'll take care of that. Next slide, please. So this is what we are telling, moving from traditional to zero trust. This is a very important slide. Today, what happens is, if you are able to come to my network, I am managing my security at the network level, at the perimeter level, or at data center level. But now the trend is coming that zero trust. You will not trust anybody. Or so what happens is, in this process, you have to build cybersecurity on each and every application. What I mean to say is, you create one zone. You say this is my safe zone, and my 10 applications are running in that particular zone. This is what I used to secure this zone. But now we are moving to a different trend. Rather than a zone, you have to protect each and every application endpoint. So this is that I was talking about zero trust architecture now. The world is now moving towards it, and India is also seriously considering to go onto this particular technology. Next, please. So next slide, please. This, I think already Deloitte has covered how to go about end-to-end security. So this is our plan we are going to do this. Next slide, please. Now, this is my last slide now. Panademic. I mean, all people will agree with me. All my friends will agree with it, right? We have started rewriting our business continuity, IT service management, and ISO 20000 manuals now with a new scenario called Panademic. This kind of a scenario never existed in our manuals, in our scenarios. We never did any mock drill, DR drill. So now it is getting a visibility into these manuals. I think now everybody understands what happens from work from. Not because of Panademic, a work from home situation can come. It can come of any other situation. There can be some alerts in the country or whatsoever it is. So all those things are now getting addressed into these manuals, and it's a good thing also, because documentation, technical processes, how you are going to address. This is a very, very important point for Indian Oil. So thank you very much. This is, I think I just gave you a small flavor what Indian Oil was facing, what they did, and in which direction we are going.
Thank you so much, sir. Your presentation was indeed very, very intriguing, and I am really apologetic to interfere in the middle and cut the presentation short, sir. But a lot of questions have been pouring in. So we thought we should have time to discuss them. Now, moving quickly to the first question. There is this question on staffing. Multiple questions have been received on staffing. If in case of organizations where you have to outsource IT, how do you ensure cybersecurity norms there? So I would like Deloitte to take this up, and then Deepak sir, we would definitely want your inputs with respect to industry perspective. Over to you, Shri.
Sure, I think outsourcing of traditional areas has always been there, and I think a lot of that essentially gets managed under aspect called third-party risk management. And similarly, when you really look at security too, and security as a best practice today, there are a significant number of areas, including IT governance and not IT, security governance and security management, which are now outsourced. The area of managed services or security operations center and all of those are already significantly areas which are outsourced, and when organizations are already managing that. It's just an aspect related to, like any other traditional outsourcing, you need to have an internal team which essentially does a lot of the governance and management, and then you bring in this particular provider who is going to have some niche skills in certain areas where he will augment and then essentially be able to manage these particular areas of services from a security perspective. And it could be any area of service. It could be your VAPT, it could be your security operations center, it could be your certification process, it could be anything, any area of security, again, similar to any other business process outsourcing, can essentially be managed.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Shri. Anything from you, sir, Deepak sir?
Yeah, I mean, it's a one-line statement. If you are skilled enough to deal with complicated security scenario and tools, you do it. Otherwise, you have no other option than outsource it. You have to live with it. Once you move to the cloud, this is what you are doing now. Nothing is in your hand. Once you move your setup to the cloud, you can just, I mean, you even don't know whom to talk in the cloud services. So whatever is made available to you, you have to use it. So आज की डेट के अंदर I think outsourcing is becoming an essential thing until unless you are upskilling yourself. But doing skilling so fast with the upcoming security things is also not it happens so fast. So I mean, you have to live with it. Outsource, yes, you have to do it. First, you have to be also skilled so that you can manage the outside party so that nothing goes wrong and you are meeting your goals. Yes.
Thank you, sir. Before we take a live caller, I would like to welcome Shri Ashutosh Vasanji, who is a Railtel Director Railtel, as well as board member SCO. Welcome, sir. Now we are taking a caller live, Mukesh Gupta. Can we have the caller live, please?
Yes, please. My name is Mukesh Gupta, and I am a career corporate banker. My query to the team is how or what could be done among the various PSUs to cooperate with one another in the field of cybersecurity instead of each PSU individually implementing their own measures, such that learnings and experiences are enhanced multifold within each PSU that could result in saving time, costs, and bring enhanced efficiency to individual PSUs. Thank you.
Let me go ahead and give a broader perspective, and then Deepak ji, you can give specifically to your sector. One of the things that Government of India had actually embarked on what you call as a sectoral SOC, which essentially is still in the works. And that the objective of the sectoral SOC was to essentially provide that particular unified SOC across the entire sector, whether it is, let's say, energy and resources, or whether it's in terms of financial services or life sciences, so that those particular sectors which are critical infrastructure can be protected. I think the point that you make is very, very important. I think not only in terms of providing these kind of umbrella kind of services which are important, I think the sectors have to come together, or the entities have to come together. And the reason I still focus on the sectors is because the kind of areas that they will focus on from a regulatory perspective, or how they respond and how they basically manage their infrastructure within a sector is very similar. There are going to be nuances specific to organization, but predominantly in a sector it would be pretty uniform from that aspect. So there is some level of commonality that can be done there. But also, what is going to be very important across all the sectors, there should be a sharing of information related to cybersecurity attacks, sharing of information related to best practices, which essentially should become that common book of knowledge, which then essentially will elevate our level of security at a much higher level. And the reason we have to do that is, today, if you take the good guys really need to band together to provide that kind of economies of scale, or essentially bring that particular critical mass, because the bad guys are already doing it. Today, if you go to the dark web, once a person hacks a particular site, he will share that particular hack and he will share a lot of information about it. And if a person is struggling with a particular hack, the bad guys really band together and really help. So I think from our side, when we really look at it, when we look at the people who are really trying to protect this infrastructure and do the good things, we all need to really band together. And it's a very good thought that you're bringing up.
Yeah, I would like to add
I
something.
would like to add something here. Yeah.
Yes, from the PS
Yeah.
perspective, yes, sir.
Ashutosh, you like to say something first?
As you please, sir.
Okay, please go ahead, please.
I would just say what Mr. Shri said, adding it further. As it rightly said, sweat more in practice to bleed less in war. A creation of a common SOC helps because a warrior at the border who is every day facing an attack has a sharpened sword in his hand. Whereas even if you have the best tools, but you don't know how to use them because you are not used to that practice every day, you would not be able to face the enemy. So it is very important to have a common SOC wherein you are able to every day analyze and realize the new signatures of attacks that are developing. Only then you are in a professional way equipped to handle those attacks. And I was slightly hurt. I would not say hurt, but because of that ownership for the organization, I was slightly taken aback when Deepak Agrawal ji did not name that RailTel was also around to serve him. And you have written the APARs of all my business for having failed to serve you. Because let me tell you, in this pandemic, the entire railways operations were managed overnight by RailTel. All across VCs, all your transportation across the country to manage your supplies, where railways played a very important role, everything was on RailTel's network. And not just railways, the entire e-office operations for a number of organizations, which I would not like to name here, is run by RailTel. So your digitization, including my own NOC operations, were changed over from work from home overnight before lockdown was announced. 18th of March, we issued SOP to manage all our networks pan India from home. We had zero interruptions. So we are there to serve you, sir, the entire PSU community. I want to assure you, we can serve you better than anybody else. If we are mis-serving you, I apologize on behalf of RailTel and would also hammer my marketing team in-house for having failed to do this. Thank you very much.
Amity, I like to add something to this.
Yes,
Anyway,
sir.
I'm very
Yes, sir.
happy that Mr. Ashutosh, I mean, he takes always pride in the work which is being done by RailTel. I mean, that's the spirit, that's the passion he has. Great. The point which I was going to make, Mr. Mukesh, the point which he has raised and which was echoed by Mr. Parsarthi also, there is need to have a synergy among the public sector expertise. And in fact, we have been discussing among the different stakeholders in scope, and we are deciding to have a group here in scope where we will have experts from different fields in the different public sectors, and they will be coming out with the ideas that how this expertise, knowledge, infrastructure can be shared, and so best practices can also be shared. And two of the experts who are sitting here, I'm sure they will agree to be part of that. Deepak as well as Mr. Ashutosh also, both will be there. And so many participants are there from the public sector. I'll request them to volunteer also, because we'll have a good group, and definitely we are going to take benefit of this suggestion, and we are going to have that group. Thank you.
Sir, I will just take a minute here. Already there is a group of public sectors who work jointly. I think once in a quarter we meet all together. Most of the public sectors we are meeting, sir, and we work under NCIPC and CERTIN, because CERTIN is already having a central SOC. But point here is, till the time you have a data fiduciary as a data residency separate, companies are having all those things. There is no centralized database structure and all. So I think to some extent these SOC and other things will continue to be separate. But yes, the good practice is, because what happens is, sir, if Ministry of Home Affairs or Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, whenever they come with a circular which has to be adopted in for cybersecurity, it goes to all public sector. And we started talking to each other how to take care of it. So there is a lot of synergy already happening. But if Mukesh thinks yes, it is not being publicized much, we will do that part also, sir. But it is happening already. Like BHEL, NTPS, BPCL, HPCL, IOCL, ONGC, we all meet, sir, under NCPIC and CERTIN, sir. We do that.
Okay, we will formalize it under scope also, that what it's not only the cyber security, but the complete digital transformation, what sort of practices are being done by different PSUs.
Sure.
Yeah,
So synergizing amongst PSCs is happening, but yes, it needs to be strengthened, and scope, as DG sir said, will definitely play whatever constructive role we are required to play in this. So yes, we request all participants to be proactive. Now taking the next question. So there is a question with respect to virtual meetings, especially board meetings. How do you ensure, the three eminent panelists sitting from public sector who are with us today would definitely relate to the fact that board meetings are not very, they don't like to conduct it virtually. Definitely not. But yes, today there is a requirement, so we are doing it. But there a lot of hesitation has been is being received from people with respect to conducting it virtually. So can you throw some light on that? I would like Deepak ji to take.
Yeah. So the question what he has raised is right, actually. In all the organizations, especially the board meeting, the audit board meetings, these all critical meetings, after this post Zoom thing which was coming into the, people were talking about it, there was a resistance. So as I told you, what we have done is now we have created our own VC application called Antrang, which is made on Jitsi platform by our own people. And all our internal meetings, because it's a very small group, like 9, 10 or 12, maximum 15 people, they sit on these meetings and all. And it's a on-premises product, which is lying on my servers under my control on my network. So all those meetings now they are happening onto this part. Maybe we don't get that kind of a quality or those things what the professional WebEx, Zoom, and other things give. But yes, it is meeting our good purpose. But Zoom, WebEx, and all those things, I don't know. This is what I will just tell Scope or Deloitte. I think today all these tools, they are end-to-end encrypted. I will not doubt about that. There is some cybersecurity issues on this platform. The entire world is using. Maybe if somebody is talking about another tool, it may be a competition or it may be something else. Because this is the time when Team got Zoom, WebEx got Zoom. The kind of a sale which happened in these three segments. You can't imagine actually. So we don't know the motive of doing all those things. But these are very good tools, end-to-end encryption tools. Plus, third thing is you should have our own expertise who can evaluate whether the Zoom and all those things are secured or not, because there are a lot of ways to do it. And CERTIN and Government of India, they are also using some third-party tool also. So I think there is no harm in doing that. But yes, if you have a fear, we have designed that particular application, and we don't mind if somebody wants to. We will be able to share our VC tool with other people because it's an in-house tool. So Sopti sir, we are open to it. We will give you the tools to the public sectors. They can put more ice and cake onto that and make it more wonderful so that everybody gets benefited onto that. So no issues.
Thank you, sir.
I would like to Samruddhi out of my love for my business again. I would like to share.
Certainly, sir. Certainly.
As we already have a secured tier 3 data center hosted web video solution, HD video solution on pay per location per month model. Need not buy anything. 7 years of obsolescence taken into account, connectivity taken into account, hardware taken into account, everything SLA based, service by Railtel. So it is available. We welcome you. Just send a mail. We are at your service across India, and we also patch you internationally. If you have a seminar with Harvard, we can patch you anywhere across the world. So we are at your service, always there. Thank you.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you, sir.
Samriddhi, I'd
Vishal?
like to add some I'd like to add some
Go ahead.
context here.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I think when you look at digital board and solutions, I think there's a whole range of solutions available right now to basically conduct these particular meetings in a very secure fashion. And I think while you look at some of the traditional tools which are now being used like Teams and others, I think there are what you call additional layers that they have from an enterprise perspective, which are available to conduct these particular secure meetings. And these particular secure meetings have been going on for quite some time. There are organizations which have already adopted the aspect of digital board, and where essentially they securely transfer files and data and all of that. So that all of that is there. But coming to the point with regards to whether it's Zoom or Teams or whatever it is, I believe that any application, when it goes through the maturity factor and others, will have issues and bugs and other things. And corporations like big corporations, which are basically sort of rolling out these particular apps, will automatically fix it, because I think I can actually, if I were to look at it, you can name the organization which are in the global who to who, and when they roll out application, these applications essentially have bugs, right? So I think it is not appropriate for us to point out just to one particular tool or whatever it is. If there are issues, then I think I'm sure the company will be willing to possibly provide the right level of justification to basically take it forward.
Thank you, Shri. So, yes,
Samriddhi,
have.
I would
Yes,
like to add one more important thing, that
Yes,
we
sir.
have to realize that work from home is in fact adding huge amount of efficiency for two reasons. One is the guy who's staying home has to justify that he is valuable to the organization. So the psychological point of view, he is contributing more. Second, the travel time lost in transit, if it can be utilized instead in creative output, that is much more valuable. Third, the saving in terms of your real estate, your cleaning, your security, your management, your air conditioning is a huge saving. In fact, I see this as the new normal, and in fact, public sector should also adopt this if they want to remain competitive. It has to be thought about that if you can add efficiency, though all those jobs which do not require anything to do there with collaboration should continue to work from home or work from anywhere, adding more value. You may be able to economize on number of factors and probably release manpower to use for productive work. I don't say surrender, but use them for more creative works, more productive works. My take on it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, sir, for your insight. Now we have a live caller. May we have you? Hello? Hello, Mr. Ajay?
Yes.
Yeah, please ask your question. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm A.K. Pathak, calling from Allahabad, Prayagraj. My question is this: if you compare Microsoft Teams and Zoom meeting, so which you can say is, have a better security feature? And MHA has put restrictions on Zoom meeting for the government for official purpose. So just another question is, if I join any international meet on Zoom meeting, and because many international bodies, they are conducting symposiums on Zoom meeting. So what are the precautions I should take?
Shri, Vishal, you want to take that or you want me to take that?
I think maybe you can add, Shri, but from the tools point of view, I mean, as we just mentioned, in terms of all the tools have their pros and cons, and with respect to the security aspect also, it takes time to mature. And then there are news items of the vulnerabilities, but I would say that that applies to any software or application which has all the vulnerabilities. And you will, it's not only a question of any of one collaboration tool. I would say any software goes through that cycle, and even the most matured software of the leading brands today also will find some issues there. So this is a race which is going on. People are finding bug bounty program and issues are coming. So it's difficult to say that this is secure and this is not secure, anything on that aspect. Shri, if you want to add anything.
Sure, and I think it is not appropriate to endorse one product over other, but however, essentially, as your organization, if you would like for a organization to basically assess as to based on your particular business requirement and how essentially these particular tools will fit your particular requirement, which may including security, sharing, and possibly cross-border data and international and other things. I'm sure something like that can definitely be done, but it's not appropriate to endorse one tool over another because it's in a broad-based platform. It's not appropriate.
Thank you, Shri. To add to that, I would request Shri and Vishal to answer on this also, that encryption is ensured in all these apps. So is it like we can take any, and or is there something that the organization can add from their side also with respect to encryption? So would Deloitte team like to answer this, please?
So you mean to say, can organizations add further encryption to the existing tool? Is that what you're asking?
Yes. A caller have received a question. Can we further customize these apps to our requirements?
So there obviously there are always scope for improvement for any app, and organizations can do. But then question here is that the app, the main developer of the app, how much of liberty he has given or customization he has provisioned for individual customers to do that. And definitely, if you see again, going back to the previous answer, not getting into the details of the names, but you will see people have actually, there are tools who have grown over a period and added encryption over a period of time, and not that they were having encryption right at the beginning. So like that, yes, if you move forward, you can have encryptions on that. And again, if your app level encryption is not there, but then you can go at the network layer, the transport layer, and encryption can be enabled there. So like that, if you don't, not necessary that you have to customize the application every time, but you can actually get into another layer encryption, and which will enhance the security as well.
Okay, thank you. Now we have received 2 questions with respect to legal provisions. There are cyber laws available, we understand, but would you like to highlight a few legal provisions that as corporates we need to be aware about, which should be, on our tips, or we should be aware about in general? Shri, Vishal?
Sure, I think couple of things, and Deepak ji, you can also add to this because from a legal perspective, I think the biggest area when we really look at this kind of virtual sharing, I think is going to be the data governance. I think that is going to be one important aspect. Second, essentially, I would possibly look at is the entire aspect of privacy and how that information is being managed. I think that is going to be second. And third element that I would possibly look at is as organization, as people are basically doing this, there is what you call on one side, there's an aspect of regulation. And then the other aspect between callers or essentially anybody participating in the conferences and all things, there's a duty of care, due care of what they really need to put in place, because I think it's important. There's only so much that regulation and compliances can do, but I think each person and how they manage is also going to be very important. And then the organization's policies itself basically kick in. So that essentially has a whole range of comprehensive framework. Deepak ji, if you want to add anything?
Sir, the base regulatory document is IT Act 2012 itself, and over and above now, we have also started working on data privacy laws within the corporation. Though it has not been passed yet by the parliament and all, but by taking the clue from GDPR as well as the draft paper. So, unlike you have already implemented data privacy. So, and for example, the data residency part is a very, very important thing where you put your data within the country or outside the country, whether it is an empaneled infrastructure as a service. So these are some of the things which matters here. So I think even if the data privacy law has not been made official, I think we should start following that thing right in our business. I mean, from right now, from this day actually. So which we have done. So IT Act and data privacy law, I think to my knowledge, these are the two regulatory framework for, as you rightly said, for data governance and other things.
So just to add on that as per that particular question, if you see most of the regulations, they are giving a directional objective to be met and to be taken care of. And the granular level security control is something which organizations have to do. They will definitely give you the guidelines and it will not be drilled. Apart from the regulations, what Deepak ji has mentioned, the sectoral regulators are also here. For example, Central Bank RBI has something, IDL have something, and then you have NCI, PSC with some certain security guidelines and other stuff. So there are enough directional regulations which are there. Now, when it comes to, I think IT Act, as we are moving with the new normal, the enhancements are also happening. So just relying on the regulation is something not really good, but it's your self-interest, how much you want to protect yourself from the threats which is there outside and not waiting for the regulation to drive you.
Okay, thank you, Vishal. We have a live caller now. Can we patch him, please? Hello? Hello, Mr. Rao?
Hello?
Yeah, please go ahead, ask your question.
Yeah, I have two dilemmas. One was already answered very beautifully by Mr. Deepak Agarwal, that I am from ONGC, just like what he faced. We are also not having a manual to work from home. And overnight we are asked to work from home, and we are in a tight spot how to do all these things. Anyway, we manage. In fact, before COVID also, we are having the infrastructure, just like a SAP or what you call e-office, or same time for the video conference, everything. But it was useful only intra purpose only. When it went out to the home, this work from home, we are not sure how to go ahead. Anyway, we manage at that time, and we are still improving on that one. And my another dilemma is that just like IOCL, ONGCs are also having operations not only in India, where operations are spread across the world. So if you go for this work from home from the other countries also, language can become an issue. So there should be some simultaneous interpretation software, something also we have to adopt in our work from home. And another is that it is called a shared infrastructure. Just like Shell and BP, they are sharing their infrastructure across the world. So now ONGC, IOCL are new to in these things. So we have to train ourselves for this one. So I would like to hear from the panel, how can we go ahead for that one? Thank you.
Can we have Deloitte taking this up first and share your other corporate experience as well? I'm sure private sector would also be going for shared infrastructure. So would Deloitte like to, without taking names, of course, would you like to share something on those lines?
I think I'll ask Deepak ji to go first, because Deepak ji, I think very related in terms of ONGC. Please go ahead.
Today, though we have got a lot of subsidiaries who are operating in Singapore, Malaysia, and some other countries, even in Sri Lanka, but those doesn't share, they have a separate database. They don't access our network or our data, which is in Indian Oil India branch actually. But point here is what this ONGC friend is telling. These can be addressed by two things. We have already geared for it, because we had sometime we had a need of it. One is the putting a right identity management, the IDM tool within the organization. And the second thing is the geolocation cybersecurity checks. Who is coming from which location? You can do the hardening of the IP addresses also. For example, if you have an office somewhere in Malaysia, and you know these are the IP addresses of these particular office, so you can only allow those IPs to come to your machines. So there are ways to do it to counter the fear of international access to your systems. So if you look at all these big national companies, everybody is accessing everywhere's data. You talk of Deloitte, you talk of SAP, you talk of Microsoft, they are doing it. So tools are there. So we have to put in a right perspective. We have talked to the solution partners, what is my requirement first? and which applications they want to access, whether it is SAP or they just want to use your cloud Office 365. So which is a requirement? As per the requirement, I think tools are there. A very strong identity management and geolocational IP security checks into your system along on your firewalls and all. I think that should solve this particular issue. That should not be an issue. This is what I feel.
Sure. I think one question, the question on language issue, I think what I would like to really address there is you're not going, if you're going to go and hire people, even if they are gig workers or they're remote workers, you're not going to go and hire anywhere and everywhere. Yeah, work from anywhere will allow your existing workers to work from anywhere, but that doesn't mean that you have to go and hire anywhere. I think you can still basically manage that part of it. But even in your current environment, if you have international locations, I'm assuming that you're already managing some of these international languages and all things. So that essentially becomes a natural environment for you. So I think work from home will not create more complexity on that, as long as your hiring policy and how you basically manage that, that is going to be important. Second element is essentially, as you look at what you've done from a work from anywhere, I would really recommend that you conduct a cybersecurity assessment of your particular environment, because I think you said you were not aware how to do it and you then embarked into this particular journey and slowly you're starting to do that. Trust me, I think there could be a significant number of risks that are sitting there which you are not possibly aware of, which are hidden under the surface. So I would really recommend that you do a cybersecurity assessment of your environment, just like how Deepak ji talked about. I think he almost peeled the onion in terms of every layer of infrastructure and work from home and all things, and they have done a complete thorough review of their environment. I would suggest that you do something very similar.
Further, with NLP available now, even this problem of real-time language processing is also available. Your Alexa can do it for you. There are a number of solutions available now. Near real language translation.
Great. Thank you, sir. We have a live caller now. May we have the caller, please? Hello? Mr. Biswas? Hello, Mr. Biswas? I'm sorry, I think we've lost. Hello? Mr. Sudeep Biswas, can you hear me? I think there's some
Yeah, am I audible
problem.
now?
Yeah. You're there. Please ask your.
Am I audible?
Yeah. Please ask your question.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Thank you for patching me in. So my query was like Deepak sir truly mentioned that in case of PSUs, we have most of us, we have a kind of a heterogeneous mix of people working from home as well as those who are going to the plants and offices. And traditionally, like I am also from a PSU, so we don't have very much exposure to this work from home scenario before this COVID happened. So, so what should be the key takeaway point for firms like for such firms like the PSUs in terms of ensuring data security in this heterogeneous mix?
I think Deloitte can this question, then let's see.
Sure. Yeah, Vishal, you want to address that? You add that in detail. Go ahead.
Yeah, so Mr. Biswas, if you just want to refer back to the presentation, obviously in a hybrid model, and as you said rightly, it becomes all the more critical from a security aspect. So few things which is important here is to first of all highlight and identify the people who are going to work from home in terms of the nature of business, how much of that risk associated to that particular operation to be working from home. If it's too much of risk or dealing with personal information and you don't have a very much control or confidence on the data privacy aspect, then you might as well want to do work from them in the premises side of on this. The second aspect is the means of access in terms of the endpoints which they are using. Are they using your own desktops or laptops, or you are providing it? And also the access mechanism, whether it's a virtual desktop, VPN, or a virtual workflow, that becomes critical here. also what we typically say when designing any technology architecture or security architecture is user to data journey. So who is the user? What is the nature of his role and the criticality attached to that business, and the entire data flow and the data journey, which means the system which he is going to access. So which system is going to access, you have to do an entire impact assessment of the system, the data which heads in all those servers and system, and who is going to access, and then you define the entire control around the access mechanism, authorization, and the data security related stuff. So your identification of the business need associated with the impact which it will have from a risk aspect and the corresponding business system. Once you do that entire impact assessment and analysis, which will help you to identify, okay, which set of operations you can allow people to work from home, and this we cannot because of the balance which you have strike between the benefit and the risk aspect of it. Once you have done that for the risk aspect, then you define your security controls both at the governance layer, which is the people process part of it, and then the technology layer, which can be again at the app access, at the network layer, and also the authorization and access mechanism, which is like identity and access management type of solution.
Shri, would you like to add to it?
I think Vishal covered it comprehensively. So I think.
Samruddhi, to solve this problem
from a technology perspective, from the action point perspective, I just noted down 5 points, quick point. I'll just read it. So if you find a need to replace your network level VPN access with an application level and a context aware identify based system, then kindly go to ZTNA, zero trust network architecture, right? Put a very strong authentication mechanism into your system, the MAF, and integrate it with your identity management. That's the second point, the action points I'm just talking, which IOCL is also considering now. Third thing is start a very rigorous monitoring your application sessions for any unusual or risky behaviors to protect your application. This is very, very important, which even after implementing those two also you have to continue. Fourth thing is any file which is getting uploaded, you have to consider it as a hostile, right? You will not leave it that. I mean, if any uploading, downloading is happening, you have to really watch it out, what is getting uploaded and downloaded. And the last thing is, as everybody is told, kindly group your users as per the needs. Who want to access what? What is the policy? Who will access what at what time? What are the super users, power users? And then basically bifurcate your risks. At what risk level you want to invest the money into it, and what kind of a risk you can digest within the organization. I think these 5 or 6 things will definitely help you take the next step while taking security for work from home. We are following this particular path.
Thank you, Deepakji. We have last caller. Sir, can I take it after this caller?
Yeah.
Sir, he's already in queue. Sorry, sir. Thank you, sir. Can we have the last caller, please? Mr. Rao, Mr. Prasad.
Rao.
Yeah.
Prashant,
Prashant, please go ahead. From IOC.
Sir, I have a question pertaining to mobile security. During this lockdown and this period, my mobile usage with respect to all the type of mobile apps which are developed by our corporations, and simultaneously I use the mobiles for all PC meeting, learning, training. And this mobile is usually have many free download softwares. We used to do it. So, and simultaneously there have been a threat of social engineering attacks. And during this period, we had that the Twitter account of US presidents get hacked, and the Facebook CEO account was also misused. So there are so many issues. So being a common user, and all of us in the family are using mobile phones, and we are not very much focused on how to handle these mobiles for our both corporate use, personal use, banking transaction. And this is basically one device we find it very handy because the bandwidth is very high. We are not using the corporate network for this type of meeting. I use this 4G, 5G mobile phones because the video clarity is also there, audio clarity is also there. So we need to be aware, not about mobile security and mobile computing. May I please advise few things on this?
Great. So how do you, this is a very basic, for daily use, I would say. How do you ensure mobile? Yes. Something, how do I put it? Non-technical language, please. Go ahead.
Yeah, so So you made it complex by saying non-technical language. But okay, on the that's on the lighter side, but a very valid question. And I think let me address in two parts. One is when you're using mobile device for your enterprise and corporate use, there are mobile device management solutions where the entire mobile, within the mobile, a containerization concept which happens so that your basic security settings of the mobile is then administered by the security administrator of your enterprise, and all your apps are within that container. So for example, if you're accessing your emails, you cannot attach or download an attachment. You cannot attach anything from the local which is stored on their on the mobile. If your mobile is gets lost, then there are automatic formatting of the mobile disk and mobile storage and other stuff. So there are mobile device management solution. I think that is the first thing if you're using for the corporate use. When it comes to the non-corporate use for a personal use, well, there are a lot of do's and don'ts which we see on the public media. We see it from the banks or the financial institutions. They keep sending RBI kehta hai, and then we all know that statement starting and a lot of campaign going around it. Don't share your OTP. Don't download any apps. And this is my personal favorite subject. I have been talking on this public forum multiple times. Especially the biggest trigger happens where when we have, as an individual, has a tendency to click on certain links or answer certain calls. When they call and say, please share your OTP, there is a problem. You scan QR codes which are not related to you or you never expected, but because of that you have won a lottery or you got a coupon code and all those stuff, you do it. Second is that you have a tendency to charge your phone on a public charge mechanism, and you have to really see there are USB drives. We call it as juice jacking as a terminology, where the moment you touch, you insert the public, you can say USB as a charger port in your mobile. The access to your mobile is given to the people, and then there's something else happening behind, and you are not even aware of. So that is something you have to take care of. Another aspect is there are a lot of apps very much looking like what is for a genuine app also. So you have to be really careful about the fake app. And the most important aspect, I would say, antivirus. The antivirus solutions for mobile have come out in a very reasonable, affordable range on various solutions, right from the branded ones to the very basic ones. I think as an user, especially for the Android phones, you should have an antivirus on your phone to make sure that all these malwares are taken care of and you are not simply downloading anything. But generally, we have a tendency to download anything and any app, and you don't realize that some of them has a backdoor entry and they are actually accessing your SMS. The last important, sorry, Samriti, this is a touchy topic and there are a huge list of control around it. But the last one I would suggest is that there are in the settings, in the Android settings and even on the iOS settings, there are settings in the app where you can disable permission for your some of the important features of your mobile, like your camera, location, SMS, caller history, and storage. Not all the mobile apps require all of these features. So you can actually go to your application permission, go through it, evaluate, make it a Saturday, Sunday task to do that evaluation, and just go through and make sure that you are not giving access to your SMSs or your call history to all the applications. It's only when it is required, otherwise disable it. Because that is something which is very critical, and most of the SMS reading or the call history reading or the phone book reading happens behind the app where you are not aware of it. So there are a lot of do's and don'ts, the layman, which you have to take care, and there are a lot of, I would say, OTT series, web series, and the movie series around this. I'll not go into detail, but then if you see, and then you'll amount of fraud which is happening because of this, and there are pockets of geography which are very expert in these aspects. So that is something which you should be taking care of.
Thank you,
And I
Vishal.
don't intend to scare you with my next statement. I think a lot of you essentially are getting a lot of multimedia files, video and audio files and other things. And these days, I think there are a lot of malware and other things that are embedded even into audio and video files. So I think as you desire to keep downloading these particular apps or these particular movies or essentially even short clips and want to really look at it. Because, for example, the recent the thing where Maradona basically passed away, we already have that some of those particular files have embedded encrypted malware. So those kind of things that are happening, and they are also, they align it with the event or something incident that is happening, so that it essentially become very popular for people to actually download.
So basically, as Amitabh Bachchan says, dhyan se raho. So yes, be careful and you'll be safe. So we have a question from YouTube. I would like Deloitte to answer this first, and then Deepak sir, if you may like to add something. So the last question is, we have discussion about securing parameters, creating zero trust, VPN security. How critical is vulnerability patching of devices connected in digital infrastructure? So this someone from YouTube, Yash Chen from YouTube has asked. So would Deloitte like to take it up first, please?
Sure, I'll bring it down, and Samriddhi, like what you said, I'll bring it down to what you call non-technical things, right? My question to people, the people who ask this question is, when you walk out of your house, how important is it for you to lock your house? Or how important is it to make sure your windows and other areas are basically locked? And also, I think a lot of people forget one thing: how important is it to sometimes to even shut off your Wi-Fi if you're not going to do remote access and other things. So I think similarly, when you really apply the same principle from a corporate perspective to your infrastructure, I think it is extremely important to check all of the vulnerabilities that exist, and any points of any point that can be exploited by internal threats or external threats, which can be malicious or inadvertent. It is going to be extremely important to basically take care of vulnerability management. So vulnerability management is that particular school of thought where you do vulnerability assessment and penetration testing. Penetration testing is where you test the system to see if actually somebody can penetrate the system through different known exploits and other thing. And vulnerability assessment will look at all of the different controls that are there. So I would say it is extremely important. I think it is the minimum baseline that any organization should do from a vulnerability management perspective. That is one. Second element you asked about is patch management. Patch management is very important because as there have been a lot of questions even on this particular forum about some of the tools. Can we use this tool? Can we not use this tool and all things? What happens is as these particular organizations have tools, as they roll out infrastructure, and as they spot exploits, as they spot issues, they basically push out patches. These patches are supposed to fix those particular known vulnerabilities or issues that you may have within your infrastructure. So the patch management is essentially important. It's almost like if you have a leaking boat, you need to go and patch those particular holes, because otherwise water is going to fill in. The same way, essentially, when you have your particular infrastructure, if you have that kind of software or hardware or infrastructure, which essentially has a known vulnerability, it's best to basically patch it, because if it is not patched, and if a hacker knows about this particular infrastructure being in your particular environment, that is the first thing that he's going to do. He's going to go and try that particular exploit, whether to see whether you patched it or not. If you have not patched it, that would be his entry point into your particular infrastructure.
Vishal, would you like to add something to it?
Yeah, so no, I think largely covered. There are other set of things which needs to be taken, especially in the connected stuff. As I said, perimeter security, even at the within the perimeter, which is the segmentation at the network layer, is equally critical. And you can actually do a device level authentication, a user level authentication, and also the network segment from where it is coming. So there are 3 levels of authentication, and all. If the same device, same user coming from a different segment of the network, his privileges will be different. If he's coming from an authorized network in the same device, but a same user but a different device, then the access level will be different. So your 3 stages of authorization or the control becomes again critical here.
Okay, so Deepak sir, anything from the industry perspective?
For us, this is the first and utmost priority, right? We don't host any application until unless it has gone by this process. I mean, whatever the fight user can do with us, until unless the device or a network or a application doesn't go through this VAPT test, we don't host it. To me, the 50 to 60% of cybersecurity issues can be handled automatically if the VAPT is being taken care. So in Indian Oil, we have not taken one agency. We have taken two different agencies to do this job for us. And surprisingly, the results of both the agencies on the same application, on the same devices come different actually. But we take care of it and we make it until it is zero vulnerability, we don't host the application or devices. So for us, this is the number one utmost priority.
So no compromise there at all. So as we still have, the panel has something to add. Okay, so now we shall be closing the webinar. The questions are still flowing, but we are already overboard our slotted time. So thanks a lot for a very insightful discussion, and your inputs with respect to the queries and patience is admirable, and we hope that we are able to do some other webinar also with respect to this. Now, may I invite Mr. Ashutosh Vasant for his closing remarks. So as I mentioned, sir is Director POM Railtel India, and he is also board member SCO. And as you can, as we've already witnessed, his experience with IT is vast. So we invited him for his closing remarks, and he kindly accepted it. So over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Samriddhi. Thanks for the valuable inputs from all the panel members, Mr. Deepak Agrawal, Mr. Shri, Mr. Vishal, and of course, DG Scope, who is always instrumental in bringing such beautiful programs on board on behalf of Scope. So it is definitely insightful and very important. One crucial aspect that has to be taken care of whenever you talk about security, any kind of security, is nothing comes for free. One. Second, nobody is out there in the world to give you anything free. So if somebody is offering you some lollipop, it is with some attachment. So just be careful about it. Like you get hoax calls on, you got a lottery, or you got some additional benefits, or you got some money transferred to you, or you click on this links. This is just general prudence. Anything in this world is loaded. Nothing comes free for you. So if you just take care of these issues, you are more or less solving most of your security concerns. Point number one. Secondly, if you can, as for the work from home environment taking roots now for long, it seems, if you can have endpoint security subscriptions, which would ensure that any device you use from any place, but they run a enterprise security endpoint security solution, you have solved one more concern. Third, use service providers again like Railtel, who provide VPN bundled with internet broadband connections as a solution to allow you access from anywhere across the country, and a lot of service providers do that. If you can have proper IDM and a VPN to take care of your access, probably you are solving again another part of your solution. One thing which I would like to bring to the notice of Deloitte team is, and in fact all the audience on board, there's one particular payment app which anytime you access, it always asks you for an upgrade. I don't know why, but I think I would not name it. But anytime I have done that, whenever I want to pay something to somebody, it says first upgrade. They're continuously on a process of upgradation. So I think they're being over secure. But that is again a step to address the march against them by the outside world. Good thing to do. So I would only assure all of you that with these basics taken into account, we can definitely use this new environment to be even more productive, more efficient, and probably add more value to the ecosystem. Thank you all for being there. Have a wonderful evening. Take care. Good day.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. So yes, as we draw the webinar to a close, so key takeaways, there are many, but I would just like to summarize it in 2 points. As Shri said, lock your house before you go. You do it, so please lock your systems also. It's very important. And secondly, as Ashutosh sir said, Nothing comes free of cost. Everything is loaded. So please, what our forefathers used to say, kuch free nahi aata. So please pay attention to that. And IT is not that difficult. Cybersecurity is not difficult. So with this, I would convey my heartfelt thanks to the panelists for enlightening us today. We thank the Deloitte team, Sri Partha Sarthi and Vishal Jain, for presenting the most critical aspects and especially taking the questions very patiently and explicitly. Though we might be sharing some questions with you, Deloitte team, because the questions are still flowing, so we might need answers. So, but thanks a lot and for simplifying the most complex terms for our understanding. We also thank Sri Agarwalji for sharing his valuable experience with us, sharing IOCL experience with us, and letting us know that public sector is already doing so much. So yes, shared infrastructure and sharing is caring right now. And Mr. Ashutosh Vasant for being with us and supporting us throughout. And of course, DG Scope for motivating us. Last but not the least, the Scope team, the Scope or Corporate Affairs team and the technical team for making this possible. And of course, the participants for showing their enthusiastic participation as always. So with this, we end the webinar for today. Stay safe, stay healthy till we meet next. Thank you so much.
Samruddhi, on behalf of Scope, I would like to thank you for wonderfully managing the show. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much.
And the entire backend team who supports you did a wonderful job once again. Thank you again. Good day.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
great day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Good day.